Welcome to the Delish Guest List podcast, a deep dive into the lives and work of Hong Kong's crazy food and beverage industry leaders, hosted by The Beat Asia magazine. This episode, we spoke with Lorenzo Antinori, Beverage Manager of Four Seasons Hong Kong, as he recounts the story of his entrance into F&B as a former law student turned alcohol aficionado in Rome and London, his love affair with Asian mixology, honing his art in Seoul, and mastering his skill at ARGO Bar in Hong Kong. Enjoy! Hello, listeners in Hong Kong, Asia, and beyond. We are sitting down today with Lorenzo Antinori of ARGO Bar in the Four Seasons Hotel, Hong Kong. Lorenzo has been a family member of Asia's Four Seasons Hotel since 2017, first manning the acclaimed Charles H. Bar in Seoul, Korea, until 2019 when he set his sights on Hong Kong as beverage manager for the Harborside Hotel in Central. In his first 2 years, he took charge of Caprice Bar's cocktail program, reaching number 10 in Asia's 50 best bars in 2021. In July 2021, he opened ARGO, a bar that pays homage to worldwide spirits making, whilst also innovating on the game, debuting third place on Asia's 50 best in April 2022. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you for having me.
We're in this beautiful, decadent ARGO bar, and I just wonder what brought you to the continent, the region, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, to Korea to join the Four Seasons family. What's the story behind that?
Well, you know, I always loved traveling since I was a younger age. Even when I was at university, I took chance of any free time that I had to travel and discover new places and new cultures. And I was in London at the time before Korea. And I think I was just at the end of my professional path in London, at the end of a chapter. I always looked at Asia with lots of interest because I believe it's a great crossroads of people with different backgrounds. It's a culture that especially a landscape that I didn't know at the time. So it was a part of the world that I was very curious about, especially looking at F&B and how F&B was somehow raising. It was something exciting. So when the opportunity came about, I just took it, and I kind of never looked back because I really enjoyed my time in Korea. It was a huge learning curve for me, not necessarily just in terms of managing or in terms of craft of cocktails. It's really about how to measuring yourself within a new culture, with a new language. So for me, that was very exciting and scary, but I think was a step that it really forged me as the professional I am today.
What happened, in your career, in your motivation to... I know a lot of people don't understand or don't know that you began as a lawyer or you wanted to commit yourself to a life of law. When did mixology, when did cocktails, when did alcohol come into your life and bring you to where we're sitting today?
So that's a good question because actually my mom, she's asking me this question every day. Why? Now she's much more relaxed, I would say. But I studied law for 3 years, so I have a short degree. And at the time I was very excited because I kind of follow my sense of responsibility and thought that law and being a lawyer would have kind of ensure me a very safe future. But at the same time, I quickly realized that in life we need to do what we like. And I think law probably wasn't my path. Lots of interesting subjects, but probably I'm more of a person that enjoys being under the spotlight, and I always been a creative since a young age and taking acting classes back in Rome. So I always loved being surrounded by people, and I think during a uni break, I started working part-time in a cocktail bar in Rome. I wasn't really making cocktails; I was making espresso, coffee. In fact, I was not allowed to make cocktails because the first time the bar manager left me alone, I made a bunch of drinks for some guests, and they were all terrible. So I was not allowed. But that environment really. I had a certain fascination, and I loved the energy. I love the element of storytelling behind each cocktails, and of course, the connection with the guest. So I think all those elements kind of made me realize that probably working in hospitality was more suitable for me. And in life sometimes you need to make some big decision that not necessarily on a short term make any sense. But I decided just to pursue this career in F&B, and again, I think it was the right decision for me.
What was it about mixology specifically, creating cocktails, creating these experiences that interested you to, first of all, have this career beginning in Rome, entering in London, going to Seoul, and then Hong Kong? Was there something about this physical experience that you're creating that meant something to you?
I think at the very beginning, I was, what really interested me was, the craft behind each cocktail, each recipe, and the technique that are used, the attention to details. So I was very fascinated by that, because I always thought that cocktails were really just, you just combine together. You close your eyes, you pour a bunch of things in a shaker, and then that's it. But instead, there are recipes, there are measurements. So I was very interested in the scientific approach, let's say. But then I think what really got me was when I was working in Rome. I remember there was this old barman, Italian barman. He was probably 70 years old, and he used to come to my bar all the time after lunchtime. And he used to be an old bartender that worked in a very famous hotel in Naples. And he started to tell me about this, when he was younger, back in the days when he was working in this beautiful hotel, glamorous hotel, and making cocktails and for very famous and important people. And he was telling me how he would come up with cocktails or compete in cocktail competitions, and drop knowledge about histories and about cocktails. And so I think this man basically really gave me the bug, and with all those stories, it really fascinated me. And I think that's when I realized that bartending is not just about mixing drinks, but it's about creating stories for our guests, entertain them, create a connection. So all those elements, of course, it's what I guess made me enthusiastic and passionate about the profession.
When you left London, as you said earlier, and you wanted to join the Four Seasons group in sort of East Asia, Southeast Asia, was it that sense of innovation, creation, community engagement that brought you to Seoul and Hong Kong? What was it about the relationship that you could build with Four Seasons that's been important in 2017 and still important now? Before,
as a matter of fact, believe it or not, before I moved to Korea, I never stepped a foot in a Four Seasons hotel. So, it was something very unknown. I mean, I always work in hotel bars all my career, but I never got the chance to be in a Four Seasons. And I think I knew about Four Seasons, of course. So when the opportunity came, it was what really got me was the opportunity to work with such a important brand in hospitality worldwide, and at the same time moving to Korea. And in all honesty, Korea, I kind of knew where it was on the map, but I had to look back, just to make sure to understand where it was, because I remember that my association to Korea was the World Cup of 2000 something. I think 2002, and Italy got kicked out by South Korea. So that was my only memory.
You wanted revenge.
I wanted a little revenge. I wanted to go there and take over. No, reality is that I didn't really know much about it. I went to Japan a few times for holiday, but I never really been to Korea. I never really heard much about what was going on in Korea in terms of bars and F&B. So that sort of because I was looking for a massive change and really a new chapter. I like this sort of idea of stepping into the dark and kind of stepping out of my comfort zone. And then when Four Seasons told me about the project, that's when I really made my decision, because the bar, Charles H., it was pretty much Four Seasons. Seoul was very new. It was just a year old when I joined.
Wow.
And honestly, it's still one of the most beautiful hotel I ever worked and I ever been. It was probably the very first real luxury city hotel that Seoul had, with a very exciting F&B department. And the bar, Charles H., was this beautiful speakeasy bar designed by ARGO, which is a New York-based designing firm. And is a bar tributed to Charles H. Baker, who was for a bartender. Charles H. Baker is, I don't know, if you're a chef, you name some of those iconic cook writer or famous journalists that kind of really changed the way people perceived cooking back in the days. And Charles H. Baker was one of them, was such an important figure in the bartending history, because was in the between 1920s and 1950s, was this bon vivant journalist that traveled around the world collecting cocktail recipes from Asia and South America. He eventually went to Seoul as well. But he wrote two very important cocktail books, which are called The Gentleman's Companion. So if you're a bartender, you know about Charles H. Baker. And funnily enough, I purchased, before actually knowing that I was moving to Korea, I purchased an original copy of the South American Gentleman's Companion from 1951, signed by Charles H. Baker in person. Coincidence. And I paid £1,000 for it. So just to show you my commitment to the cause.
Did you share that in the interview? Or?
I sold it for $5,000. No, I didn't.
Wow.
I didn't. It's still with me. It's still here in Hong Kong, actually.
Really? Wow.
I have it here. But I definitely use that as a little bit of a tool to persuade the interviewer, the GM at the time. I think all those elements, it's kind of a coincidence, but at the same time, I think the project was extremely cool. In a very unknown land for me, and so I kind of those were the reason why I moved there.
Oh wow! What dragged you, inspired you? Why did you take that flight from Seoul to Hong Kong in 2019 to join Hong Kong's Four Seasons team and pitch yourself with Caprice?
So I think after 2 years and a half, I was a little bit. I was ready for a new task. Let's call it that way, for a new challenge. And, the Four Seasons kind of proposed me to move to Hong Kong. There was, in the pipeline, there was a new bar as well that they kind of whispered in my ear, we're going to open a new bar and you can kind of help creating the concept and the whole program. Hong Kong, I've been a few times. I always love the energy, the melting pot of cultures, and the very exciting F&B. So for me, it was a kind of a no-brainer choice as well. Four Seasons Hong Kong, under one roof, so many talents, so many Michelin stars. For F&B lovers like me, it's kind of going to the Mecca, right, of F&B. So you have Caprice, Lung King Hin, Chef Guillaume in Caprice. His cuisine is fantastic, and having 3 Michelin stars and on his belt, being able to work with him as well was a privilege, right? And then Lung King In, the very first Chinese restaurant to be awarded with 3 Michelin stars. Again, it's kind of you don't have this opportunity often, right?
A blessing.
A blessing, yeah. And I love Chinese food, so sometimes I sneak in the kitchen and I steal dim sum here and there. But all these elements, kind of made it easier for me to move here. And Caprice was the first project that we worked together that I worked at least here when I first moved, and it was very challenging, but also very, very, very fun.
Tracing back, obviously, 2 years into the future with ARGO, July 2021, what inspirations did you take from Seoul? Did you take from London? Did you take from Rome as well to creating ARGO? A sort of personal passion project, but also you becoming heavily invested in creating one of the top Asian bars this year.
Which, by the way, we just had a great news 2 weeks ago that I was in Barcelona for the world's 50 best, and I have to say big shout to the team, because we rank number 28 in the world.
Yes.
And so I just like to emphasize this, because the team has worked so hard. And I think, most of the recognition, I'm here taking this very cool podcast, but I think, I share the glory 50-50. Let's say actually 70 them and I take 30%. I just do the interviews. But basically, ARGO, what I took from my journey, I think it's not necessarily related to the concept. I think the concept ARGO is a reflection of the time that we are living, and is a reflection of how the industry is changing, because we celebrate innovation. We look with a different eyes on spirits making, but also we look on how the world we're living is changing the way spirits are made. Food and drinks, they work closely. And I think whenever we see changes in the landscape of food, this is as an affect as well how the world of drinks. So ARGO is really like that. We look at technology, we look at sustainability, we look at terroir, we look at storytelling, and how all those elements are shaping and shaping a new way of drinking and making spirits. So I think ARGO was very much so what happened these days, what's happening around us. Of course, for me, what I took was from London. I've learned the basics, especially of hospitality. It doesn't matter in which venue you are. It doesn't matter which concept you are running. It's really about people, and we are in the hospitality industry, so we provide that sort of service, and that sort of hospitality needs to be friendly, needs to be warming, needs to be engaging, and I think that's for me the London part. Korea was understanding that I'm in another country, very different from where I'm from, so I have to be respectful. I need to understand the landscape where I am, and sometimes you need to pick your fight, because otherwise you go mad. And but it's about really listening and understanding that the people that are working with you, and also the guest, because again, Asia is very different from Europe, and for me it was very important to, instead of having people changing for me, it was very important for me to mold myself into this new scene. So that was what I kind of took from my experience in Seoul. And then ARGO, as I said before, was pretty much like a result of this understanding and trying to question a little bit what's happening around us these days in the world of food and beverage.
Absolutely. Was the podcast. Just popping in to say, if you've enjoyed this episode so far, check out thebeat.asia for more exciting content just like this. The Beat Asia is the fastest growing regional publication for local news, happenings, culture, and more. So be sure to check us out at thebeat.asia. All right, now, what was I saying? Tell me about what cocktails at ARGO mean. What themes do you portray and present in the tipples that you make, and where does innovation come in terms of the ingredients that you source and the recipes that you created?
Yeah, so as I said before, I think ARGO, we celebrate innovation in spirits making. We look with lots of curiosity to that world, and we celebrate those stories. But as I said, the world of spirits is connected to what we're living on a daily basis, right? And so, our first cocktail menu, it was that. It was showcasing those spirits, and the story that we were telling were around those 6 ingredients that are part of our daily base life. They are in danger for different reasons, or they are very dramatic menu. They are in danger for different reasons.
What are the 6 ingredients? Can you tell us?
We have rice, honey, vanilla, cacao, and apples. And so the idea was like how we can celebrate them and how we can tell certain stories. And I think for me, innovation is not necessarily related to, it's innovative because we're using a crazy machine that makes cocktail or makes, people flying away. Or innovation is really about, I think, understanding the landscape we're living and telling certain stories. For example, innovation is also understanding the origin of certain things that we consume every day. It means like what kind of practices are we adopting these days in order to have a more sustainable operation. ARGO, we use eco spirits. It's a technology that allows us to reduce massively carbon footprint when it comes to spirits, and as well the transportation of spirits themselves. So they come in those totes. We are able to refill the bottles. We try to be as plastic free as possible as well. And we try to work with people that are conscious and they have ethical values that I think are important. We work with farms. In Hong Kong, we have a collaboration with a honey farm in New Long. So one of the drinks that we have on the menu, the Bark, Leaf and Love, is kind of tailored around the work that these guys do with the farm, with the honey farm. So it's about urban farming. We use the honey, we use the bee pollen, we use part of the flora that actually surrounds the farm itself. We work with a friend of mine. He has a cacao farm in Malaysia. He works with local tribes, supporting them. So when we start the project, because we have cacao as one of our ingredients, we purchased a number of cocoa pods and a number of cacao for one of the drinks, for actually the cacao section. So I visited the farm myself. Unfortunately, we were supposed to do much more interchanging of experiences with them, but COVID didn't allow us. But we have the single origin Negroni, which uses Ulugali cacao from Malaysia, from the tribe. And it's a way for me to, of course, I'm aware that, those cacao, they take a plane and they come here. So it's not necessarily the most sustainable way to travel. But at the same time, for me, it's also about supporting whoever adopts good practices at the origin. And then innovation as well, in spirits making, technology is playing such an important role. And for us, the normal way of categorizing spirits doesn't really fit anymore with the current landscape, because you have producers that uses technology or produce spirits that are not categorizable as a vodka, whiskey, rum. You have botanical spirits or hybrid spirits. Example, the guys from Empirical Spirits in Copenhagen. They are ex-chefs from the Nomad in Copenhagen, the very famous restaurant. They set up this distillery and they pretty much make free-form spirits.
Wow.
Focusing on flavors rather than a genre. But we came across molecular whiskeys, AI gin, AI-made spirits. So spirits are kind of created through an algorithm.
Do you want to use AI gin in the
why not?
The cocktail program?
Yeah, we have it. We have it here. It's
really?
We have created a book which is pretty much our spirits list.
Wow.
It's called The Field Guide to the World's Innovative Spirits. Another very dramatic name. But we categorize. We put together these 60 bottles, and we categorize them based not on their genre, but based on their story, production method, origin. And we have an AI gin made in Bristol.
Wow.
A molecular whiskey, a hybrid spirit. So there's a lot of stories that can be told these days.
Wow. So obviously you mentioned 2 weeks ago in Barcelona for the world's 50 best, winning 28th, your third place on ARGO in April. Where does ARGO exist on the map for mixology in Asia for now and the future? Where do you want to bring your team to next?
I think the next goal would be to welcome as many international guests as possible.
Good answer.
I think, rather than, those achievements and those accolades are great. But I think as well that they are not sustainable if we are not able to showcase what we do to a broader audience. So I think for me, the biggest goal would be being able to welcome guests here as early as possible so they can actually see and experience what we do in ARGO. And, the program will always evolve in a creative way, in a progressive way, always kind of questioning things with a different eye and looking at things from a different angle. So I think that's what, ARGO future is about.
Okay. I think we're good for the questions now, but we have our buzz fire round, so we're going to take 5 seconds just to...
Beautiful. Let's relax a little bit.
Get your
shot of tequila.
Shoulders ready. We're going to be asking you some quick questions with less than a few seconds to think of an answer. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. What is your favorite garnish?
Olives,
Olives. I thought it would be
gummy bears.
gummy bears. Why not?
I know, that's my favorite food.
Everyone knows you for the gummy bears in Hong Kong. If you had to drink one cocktail for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Negroni,
Why?
because I lose my passport otherwise if I choose another drink.
Indeed. Work is cancelled for your Friday night. What bars are you hitting up?
I would probably drink a beer with friends on a stairs in Tai Ping Shang Street, which is my favorite street in Hong Kong. So outdoor, friends, beers, great.
Of course. What is one liquor, spirits, alcohol genre you cannot drink again after a bad experience?
You know, funny, since I was 23, I couldn't drink gin because
Wow.
I got my first experience with gin was very traumatic. I was 16. There was this bottle of Bombay Sapphire in a club on a table, like a random bottle. I don't know who it belonged to, and I just took it and I sculled it, and then it had some traumatic effect on me. So till I was 23 and I was already working in London, I couldn't smell gin. I couldn't drink gin. It was a really goosebumps, and now I'm changed, and it's
God.
great, beautiful life.
What is and then going on to hangovers, what is the best cure to get over your hangover?
I mean, drink again. That's that's the best. But I think if I have to be mindful, probably lots of water. Berocca is one of my or any sort of vitamin C, and a Netflix marathon.
Good. What is the worst drink you make that people love? It doesn't need to be on the bar menu here. If it's just vodka cranberry and you hate that, but people love that, then
I mean, like realistically, there must be a lot of drinks that I secretly hate but people love, but I can't really, I can't confess this sin.
I won't.
So
we won't put that public.
great.
What concept bar or cocktail lounge do you think and want existing in Hong Kong?
I would like to see more. I would like to see good pubs where you have great beers, a good cocktail program, great food, hearty, comforting, and I'm a big sports guy, so bring on the sports bar as well, but of a certain level. I think these are my maybe one day I will open a sports bar in Hong Kong.
Maybe. If you could be mixing cocktails in any bar in the world, where would you go?
I would go. Probably, I would be very happy to go back to the Savoy at the American bar where my career started, and make a drink for some of the regular guests. That would be very. That would be very fun, very cool.
If you could be drinking in any bar right now, where would you go?
I would drink with my dad at home in Rome.
Nice. What bar would you want to open up personally in Hong Kong if you had $1 million?
If I have $1 million, I wouldn't open a bar. I would do something else. Maybe I buy a boat.
Beyond Soho, Wan Chai, obviously here, TST, what is the most underrated area in Hong Kong to drink?
I think this is a very good question. And I think you have TST in general, but maybe not to drink, but I think Tin Hao and Tai Hang, that area, you have a great deal of craft beer bars, little like cocktail or wine. Yeah, like, and I find them very, it's very fascinating because it almost doesn't feel like to be in Hong Kong. And it's very cool. It's very community, neighborhoody. I always enjoy my time there.
What is your go-to drink for maybe a Netflix night in?
For a Netflix night, I think I will have to drink. I don't drink at home. That's actually a true story. I don't drink at home. I was trying to kind of made up something fun, but I don't drink at home. So probably it would be like green tea.
What do you love about being a mixologist?
I love the fact that we are some sort of like confessional priest. We listen. We need to prescribe the cure for happy moment, sad moment. So I feel a little bit like a monk.
You should do a guest shift at Dr. Fern's, become
or in the Vatican, maybe.
maybe. What is your favorite junk food to eat at 2 a.m.?
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken, where?
Chicken nuggets from McDonald's.
McDonald's? Oh,
no doubts.
No, not a good choice.
I know.
Shangwan McDonald's?
No, Queen's
Central.
Road, the dirtiest, the better.
The LKF one. And final question, what are you working on right now or in the future that you'd like to share with us?
I'm working on my own biography. No, I'm just kidding. I'm working on, we are launching a new menu in Argo, which will be mid-November. Very exciting. We also launching a product, a beer. Can't share any further detail, but will be a beer which will be available in Hong Kong and in Argo. And also, it's very fun. It's something new for me. I'm writing a column on South China Morning Post about drinks, about weird food drinks pairing, and kind of unleash all my love for pizza and weirdness in general.
For readers of the Beat Asia and for readers of the Post, how often would this be going out?
Well, it should be once a month, but let's say that once every 2 months.
We'll keep our eyes out for that.
Let's see. My PR team should. Let's hurry up, okay, for the next one, okay?
Keep your finger on the pulse and tap follow to keep up with the Beat Asia to hear more colourful chats and rich stories. This episode is hosted by me, Ruben Verabes. And special thanks to our lovely guest, Lorenzo Antinori, for joining us today. Our producer for this episode is Marcus Trema, and we are edited by Natsuki Arita. That's all for this episode. See you in the next one.